Dwight Bassett with Boyd Companies is joining us today, and he's going to give us some insight on mergers and acquisitions. Dwight, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, glad to be here.
So, talk to us a little bit about those mergers and acquisitions and what those folks really need to be taking into consideration when going into this.
I think the most important thing is a good due diligence process where you go in and you thoroughly look at the financial statements and you look at the balance sheet, you look at assets, you get appraisals done, you validate the information so that you actually understand what you're buying. It's not like buying a car. You've got a lot of different things that you need to look at. There's some intangible things that are important. I would look at the culture of the company. I'd look at the tenure of the employees. I would interview management and just see how professional they are. And one thing I think is really important is to understand why the seller is selling.
That makes sense. What are some of the challenges that you know that someone would likely face, that you have faced yourself, and how you overcame those?
Getting data is probably the biggest challenge. If you have an organization that you cannot get data on or get the data that you ask for, that is probably the biggest red flag that I would put up, that you've got an organization that has issues. But typically if you can go back and maybe help them, and it may be just a situation where they have it, they're just not very sophisticated, where you can help them get the data out, then you can resolve it. But I think it's really important to make sure that you're able to get the data and just don't blow through it. A lot of entrepreneurs will get so excited about making an acquisition, if they're unable to get data, then they assume that it's not important, and that's not the case.
How do you see technology playing into helping with a merger or an acquisition?
Well, technology is important. I think the ability of the acquirer to scale up the new company and perhaps put them on your platform very quickly can help you be more successful so that you're not operating in the dark. You can still run them separately and have them on your platform.
So if you are looking to acquire or merge with a company that already has a good technology base in place, does that help them, hurt them? Does that make them more valuable?
I think it helps them and perhaps makes them more valuable, because typically someone or a company that has good technology is going to be more sophisticated and probably better run.
And probably have a better idea of what their data looks like, what their numbers look like, really.
Yeah, that's very important, is to truly understand what you're buying. And you can also make acquisitions where, say, you're buying somebody, their technology may be better than yours. So you're actually buying some technology or the expertise.
What do you see in the future as far as other companies that might be going through this?
Well, I think there'll be more. I think we'll see some consolidation in transportation and logistics as companies want to grow. Drivers are hard to find. Partner carriers for logistics are hard to find. So naturally, the easiest way to do that is to buy somebody that has drivers and has, say, partner carriers for additional capacity. The business is also getting more difficult. There's more regulation, and it needs more sophistication, needs more technology, and typically your bigger companies are going to have that. I see a lot more going on in consolidation going forward.
Do you see any difference whether you're an asset company or a logistics company? Which ones might be going through more?
I think both of them are going through it. The asset guys tend to really like the asset light guys a lot, but the asset guys got drivers, and they typically have a longer history. So we're seeing some of those companies begin to merge and create super carriers. We've seen that with Swift and Knight. You never would have dreamed that those two companies would have merged, but they've created a super carrier. But the asset light thing is really interesting to somebody who has assets, and then the asset light guys are going to need assets going forward to be able to sell their services to big customers.
Do you see the smaller companies maybe being more vulnerable or more likely to be acquired by the larger companies?
The e-log mandate is putting a lot of pressure on the smaller guys, and we're seeing, especially the guys with less than 50 trucks, we're seeing a lot of interest from those guys in either becoming a fleet owner for a motor carrier or just selling their fleets.
What is it about those smaller companies that a larger company is looking at that makes them desirable?
A good driver base and a good customer base. You can do a lot with those two.
Well, Dwight, we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.